My name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. Let's say thank you for tuning in. Today, I'm just gonna say this up front, I wanna talk dog training stuff for a moment in this video today. And a lot of what I talk about dog training in reality kind of encompasses like more than just dog training. It's all kind of just a universal thing that I realized. But something in specific I want to talk about with these dogs because it's something in specific that I keep on hearing. And I keep on hearing this concept that just, I guess I could say it challenges me in a way of, I need someone to critique, criticize, teach, reteach, and give me some more insight on what I'm about to talk about right now. Because what I think in my mind of what I'm seeing with this concept is training is not learning based. Those words put together in a statement, I already say to myself, that's not right. That's half true. And when I hear something that's half true, I have to say that it's deceptive. Because if it was all true, it would be a universal, everything was just good with it. But when you're putting half out there and then you're only trying to talk about the half that works for what your argument is, that's the part where I think that things get complicated on these lands. That we're not looking at both sides, we're only looking at one side. Because again, everything on this planet, for whatever reason, is like two sides of things. And unfortunately, the stuff that only people want to talk about is the extremes on both sides. As opposed to realizing, no, there's one part here. And there's two completely different opposite sides here. And the opposite side, that learning, you cannot train to learn. To me, that's silly. Because it comes down to the simple fact of, depends on the way you're approaching your training situation here. Not all training is meant for you to learn from. It is meant for you to just do a task. And there is also the other side of that a lot of training is meant for you to learn how to be able to do something outside of just a task, but learn how to do it with just you figuring it out and making it happen. That's the concept that I believe is struggling in like dog training. We're giving too many, this is my opinion here, my opinion with what I see, with what I used to do, with where I see things still are with a lot of people that are struggling with these dogs. You're training, you're not getting the dog to learn. You're giving too many reinforcements that is not allowing the dog to be able to learn. You're keeping it in training mode. So then when you say sit to the dog, or you say, why is the dog still not loose leash walking with me? Why is the dog still not walking by my side? It's because you're giving too much information, not allowing it to be able to go into their learning stages. You're keeping it trapped in training. You could also use, this is the way that I go today, why I don't call myself a dog trainer anymore. I guess I would consider myself as a dog, getting a dog to learn at this moment today. Because I'm going to train what I want the dog to do, such as the task. And then I'm going to put it all upon the dog to do that task in the way that it sees fit. I don't want to micromanage how I see the dog doing that anymore. Do I get a little uncomfortable sometimes because the dog is, say, pushing a little further than I want? Yes, but that's the part where I have to allow them to learn what I'm looking for. Because even now, I don't know if you can see her or not, but Dalmatian, when I get to talking and I get to doing, I've trained her to, I would want you to stay with me while I'm making these videos so I don't have to like look in the background. I never really done that to the Shepherd because I don't know why, but he's just never been, he's not, I don't want to use this word, but use this word the correct way. I guess my brain sees it. My Dalmatian is a flight risk because her prey drive to want to chase is so intense that if I'm not paying attention, I'm focused this way, she's way over there, she may, I don't know 100%, but she may want to go chase it. And I just can't allow that because that comes to a safety hazard. Where this dog, he never chases. He just doesn't chase. I don't know what's wrong with my Shepherd. He just does not chase stuff. He gets excited. He's like, oh, there's a deer. We saw a couple along the way. He's just like, it is what it is. So I don't need to even train what I'm looking for from him. I'm just expecting him to learn what I want. Stay close. He always stays close. Sometimes he's a little bit further away, but he stays close. So he's learned on his own without me having to say a single word to him. What I'm looking for is stay close. I don't care how you do it. I don't care where you are with the closeness, but do that. He's learning. He's in his learning stages of figuring out what he wants to do. And at this moment today, my Dalmatian is now in the learning stages as well. For a while, it was on leash here, on leash here. I'm training. This is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. And then I let that training go. And I put my training to put into practice of seeing if she's learned what I'm training her to do. Not me always having to keep on saying, this is the only task, this is it. But my main task that I'm saying to her is, if I'm speaking, there's no chasing, there's no nothing. So her best interest today is, sometimes she walks and she moves, but her best interest today is she just lays right next to me. She just stays really, really close to me, all on her own. I don't say a single word to her to tell her this is what I want. She just does it on her own. I don't need to do anything. She's learning at this moment. So I've trained to get them to learn. That's the thing where we need to train and then back off and then see what our training is able to do. This is a thing that I know for a fact because I've seen this with my own dogs at home. I can have a dog such as my Border Collie. He's said, I never really trained the dude in reality. He's learned how to move the animals. I show him where I want them to go. So my training is, hey, I want him through this gate. And I could point at a gate, I could look at the cows, I could look at him, and he's like, oh, you want me to get him through there? I'm like, yeah, buddy, you have all free range to do whatever you want to get him to go through there. So my training is through the gate. He's now in learning stages of, I know what you want. I'm going to do it the way I need to get it done. That's the differences here on learning and training. Training, you're going by the books. You're just like, I don't want to put it in the working aspect of humans, but I can put it in the working aspect of the dogs. You want the dog to sit. I'm training the dog to do the sit and do the sit right next to my side. After, what I really want is to get the dog to learn what I'm looking for from those words. So I'm going to show the dog, train the dog, and then I'm going to release my training to say, what have you learned? Okay, you say sit, you see what the dog does. If the dog sits over there, I'm like, cool, that's what I wanted. If it sits over there, cool, I just want you to sit. I don't care what you do, how you do it, but I want you to figure out what's best interest for you right now to be able to do what it is that I'm asking for. That means the dog is processing and is learning things. Same with the loose leash walk. When the dog is walking and acting a fool and pulling, going crazy and jumping and hopping and hooling and going all crazy, I'm going to explain to the dog, I just want you to be with me. I don't care where you are with me, but I want you to be with me. That's the training I'm saying, stay with me. And then after a while, I let all of it go. I'm no longer going to, this is the part that most folks get struggled with these dogs. You're continuously reinforcing. You're continuously saying, even, good job. You're continuously giving it a treat. You're continuously breaking out for a play session. You're continuously doing that. So you're never getting out of training, allowing the dog to just be able to figure it out on its own. I want to let everything go to let the dog figure it out on its own. And if anyone thinks that a dog can't do that, that's the part where I can see a huge disconnect. I believe that dogs are conscious, thinking beings that are able to process and deal with situations to be able to figure out what's best interest for them to be able to get that process done. And I use that process to be able to get what I'm looking for, but at the same time, it's allowing the dog to get what it is also looking for. And in most cases, I'm allowing the dog to use its own desire to get what I'm looking for based on the training. I don't care how we get there. I just want to get done what it is that I trained to do. I don't care what process, what way, what system, how you do it. We're getting it done. That's where the dog is now learning how to be able to do on its own and knowing how to think it through to come up with a plan, to come up with an idea. And this is the part where things get complicated because someone could say, you can't train something to get out of fear. You can't train something to get out of overexcitement. I believe that that's another half truth and a half lie. You can't train them to not be scared of something, but you can show them by, say, training them what to do if you start to get nervous. If you get nervous, do this. So the dog says, oh, okay, so if I start to get these feelings inside of me, if I do that, it seems like these feelings kind of go away. So I could train that. And through time of doing it hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of times, that dog at some point is going to learn, if I get this and I do that, everything is good. I don't need to show the dog anything. It's like my shepherd is phenomenal at letting me know way ahead of time what's happening before the Dalmatian knows anything. This is how I've been able to, in reality, fast track my success with getting this dog from chasing anything. Because she's not really, she just doesn't have the nose like my shepherd does. My shepherd knows like a half mile ahead, hey, there's a deer, there's a rabbit, there's a something. He instantly looks at me. And then once he looks at me, a trigger kicks in the Dalmatian of like, ooh, something's up ahead. And when she gets into that moment of something's up ahead, she gets all this rampage, I just say, hey, just chill with me. So I trained her when she got all excited to stay with me. You see it and nothing happens. You don't need to chase it. You need to take off. So I get a heads up because one of my dogs is giving me the heads up. But he gives me the heads up of anything that's up ahead. That's just what he does. That's in reality what's in kind of a shepherd's breed. They walk ahead and they're just scanning for like potential threats, basically. What's happening, what's around, what's near. I need to make you be aware that something is up there. So he always lets me know something is up there. And when he does that, I've now been able to train the other one to say, hey, when you get these feelings, just stay here. And through time, I no longer, like today, I rarely have to say, hey, no, hey, don't do that. Hey, stay here. Hey, good girl. Hey, good job. She sees triggers. I see her get excited and she's learned, oh, I'm not going to do anything about that right now. We're just going to hang out right now. I don't have to continuously say anything to them. That's when you get out of training. You stay in training until you get what you're looking for, and then you let it go. And you push the dog off and say, you're on your own at this moment now. Now you got to go do what you got to do. Now you got to do what I'm expecting from you. And if the dog is still not doing that, you still haven't trained enough. As simple as can be. It's as simple as opening the front door and getting the dog to not bum rush and run out the front door. You're going to train the dog. When you open the door, the dog just stays in the house. And here's the kicker. Here's where things get complicated because the control that a lot of people want. I want it like this. So if you say sit to the dog, you want your dog to come to this attention heel right next to you and sit. When you say don't bum rush out the door, you say to the dog, I want you to sit just like this, right here, just like that. I want to open the door and not allow the dog to run out. That's where you're never getting out of, not never, but you're never getting out of training because you're not allowing the dog to be able to come up with its own idea, its own plan, its own system. In most cases, the best way to do anything is allow the dog to come up with what works for it to be able to do what it is that you're looking for. So for my dogs, for instance, if I'm opening up the gate and I don't want them to go out, so I got my front, I don't care about the front door, but it's my second gate to go out, say, to the freedom of the property. And I don't let them just bum rush and just run out of there. They have to wait. But that's the word that I use is wait. I don't care if you sit. I don't care if you lay down. I don't care if you go walk away, but you're just not going through this door. That's me showing the dog, training the dog at first, hey, down, or hey, sit, don't go through the gate. And then after a while, I said, okay, you understand what I want. So now, how do you want to go about this? Now, all my dogs today, they don't down, they don't sit, they just stay. They just stand and they just look at it. They're like, oh, I see an open door. And they just walk and turn away and go do something else. They do whatever they want to do. I don't care what they do. That dog has now learned, I just don't go through that gate. The dog isn't in this training regimen of I have to do this to get this. That's training. Learned means I just can't do that anymore. Done. The dog is able to process and think that through. This is the thing that, unfortunately, humans do this to other humans, thinking that us humans are unable to learn. We only need to stay in training. That's why they set up tasks for people to do. But what happens in that stance with humans? When you're working in a warehouse or doing stuff like this, you get burnt out because you're just doing these constant just things over and over and over and over again. And you're not able to like come up with a plan of how to do it on your own. That's that part of the creativity that, in my opinion, dogs also have a extreme level of creativity the same way that we do. That's why even in the video yesterday of saying how this dog here, when he gets stuck in behind something, he's able to figure it out on his own. He's creative. He's like, no, yeah, let's go that way. Like he's able to just come up with what works in his mind in that moment. And if you've never seen that before, that's one thing I would say is you clearly don't understand all of this. But dogs can see a task and say, I don't want to do it like that. I want to do it like this instead. When I allow the dog to do it like this instead, they're learning, and I no longer have a dog that just doesn't understand what I'm looking for. I do not have dogs that do not understand what I'm looking for when I'm walking with them on leash. They're like, this is what the expectations are. This is what's happening, and that's it. I don't care how you do it. I don't care how far ahead you are. I don't care how next to me. I don't care how far behind you are. I don't care how far over there you are. I don't care how far you are over there. This is what we're doing. This is what's happening. And the dog has learned, hey, this is the part that's easiest for me. So for my shepherd, for instance, his easiest way when he's walking on a leash is to walk right next to my side. I don't know why. That's just easy for him. He just walks. He just stays literally right next to my side. He doesn't, not ahead, not behind, but he's right next to me. Where the Dalmatian, she likes to be a little bit ahead. And I say, y'all do what y'all want to do. I don't care. But the one thing is, you're not chasing, you're not running, you're not dancing, you're not doing nothing, you're not barking, you're just here. And I put it all on them. And their creativity is allowing them to be able to come up with what's the best case scenario for them. And when they're in that stance, yes, I can train a dog to learn something. And the dog can also learn something and start to train something else as well with what they've learned. That's the part with me that I love about working with these dogs, is allowing mine I don't allow them to correct each other and do stuff like that with each other, but I do allow them to teach each other. I allow my shepherd to show my Dalmatian, hey, there's something up ahead. We're not chasing it. Let's just hang out. And he's able to look at her and say, this is what the rules are. This is what it is. And he's able to fast track what I'm looking for because he can communicate directly to her through the said thousands and thousands of reps that I've done with that dog. So he can start to put it on to another. But the thing is, this is where things can get complicated. If the dog is putting it in a sense of control and demanding, that's where things are going to get a little hostile. That's where things are going to get a little weary between both of your dogs, because now one is in the sense of it needs to listen or else. And nothing on this planet in reality needs to listen or else. That's like the hardest way to be able to function. That's when you're staying in training. Your dog is sitting at the front door. You better sit there or else. And when I open the door, you or else. You better do this or else. You're in training. You're not in learning. It should be we're doing this because this is what we've learned. This is what we learned. This is where we are. This is what's going on. I don't know why, but my brain just looks at it like that. And I would love for someone else to be able to like say something, because I hear this from people, and people come to my channel and even say this, and I've heard this from another trainer just constantly say that you can't, training is not, you don't learn nothing from training. That is, I don't know why, but that's silly to me. It just doesn't make sense. And I want more information to figure this out, because the research that I've done and I continuously keep doing on keeps proving to me what I'm saying. But we always have that problem. Our computers are getting jammed up today. That when it's like it only keeps bringing you stuff to agree with you. I want to bring stuff that doesn't agree with me. How in the world how can someone say that you'll never learn nothing through training? You'll never be able to stick it into memory through training. You'll never be able to be creative and come up with your own plans through training. I want someone to explain to me how that's possible so that I can get both sides here and not just the one side, because my research keeps putting me to one side. Even when I look for stuff on the opposite side, they still say, I hear you a little bit, but you still learn through training. You're still able to comprehend. You do not need a relationship to learn things. You do not need a relationship to train things. You just need to train it and have expectations. That's where I believe a lot of folks are messing up today, because you're relying upon something that doesn't matter here. You're trying to put like pieces together. You're trying to put, what is it, the little square board. You got squares and you got circles, and you're trying to put the circle in the square in the circle. It doesn't fit. It doesn't work. What works is the simple showing something how to do something, and then allowing it to do it the way that it wants to be able to do it, and allowing it to be able to change and transform the way that it's doing it to be able to do it in the fastest, most easiest, most convenient way for them. Not for you, but for them. So when this part with the recall on the dog, when I'm calling my dog to me, I'm going to put it in its best interest of what it should do to get to me. I don't care how it does it, but I want it to do what it thinks that it needs to come up with to do for me. And depending on my language, depending on what's around, depending on what's going on, the dog makes a judgment based on all of that criteria. And then it does what it is that I'm looking for it to do. So if there's a deer running up ahead and they take off, just earlier, a deer just, man, that was a big, beautiful, that would have been a good one for making so that would have been a good dog food deer. That was a big, big sucker running. And my shepherd looks at it. He's like, oh, his ears up, staring at it. And Ophi had this, she ran 5 paces into it. Not a full out sprint, but 5 paces. So in a scenario like that, I'm going to expect that she's going to have more of a haste to come back to me, as opposed to we're just hanging out here right now. She can lollygag and go slow as can be. If I'm getting close to a street and there's cars coming by and I'm nervous about her I'm going to expect, and I'm going to not even expect, but I already know that she's going to be in a haste to get back to me. If there's a random dog that's just running right at her, or she's looking like a little nervous, or there's a bear or something chasing her, I hope I never run into bears out here, but she's going to be in a haste to want to get to me. But when we're just hanging out, there's nothing around right now, and we're just chilling, she's chewing on a bone right now, I would expect that it's going to be a little bit slower, that I don't care. I don't need it. I know what scenario, that's the part of she's learned what to do here. It's not training. It's not training at all. That's where I believe a lot of people are struggling, because you're training, and you're not getting the dog to learn what it is that you're asking for from them. And that's why you're just constantly in this battle of oh my goodness. You got to show the dog, train the dog what you want, and then stop. And now allow the dog to do what it is that you're looking for in the way that dog has learned through the training that you gave it. Everything's going to learn differently. Everything's going to learn differently. the way that I can get my Dalmatian to down, the way I get my Shepherd to down, it's completely different. Like one is just like, it does real slow. And then my Shepherd, he just lays down. He's just like, bam. That's who he is. He likes that, how do I say it? That he's a dog that likes to be told what to do. Sit, okay, sit. And he likes it. This is weird. But other dogs, my Dalmatian is the opposite of this. If you say down and he doesn't lay down, you better say down again. And point to the floor and say, hey, buddy, I said to get down. He's like, oh, okay, I'll get down. He gives no pushback. He actually looks at you like, oh, thank you, man. You told me to get down. As opposed to if I just walk away and like, whatever, dude, you didn't do it. He starts to get weary. But the Dalmatian, if I say down and she doesn't lay down and I go, hey, down, I said down. She looks at me like, buddy, I'd never listen to you again for the rest of the day. I'm done with you. I don't even want to be near you. And it's a complete weird, strange thing. So I've learned to let them learn on their own what's best for them. Down. So I simply say it. And then I just wait it out. And then now the Dalmatian, if I really need her to, I just stand there and I just point. I just point. I'm just like, this is what I'm looking for. And she'll just stare at me like, what do you want? Okay, that's what you want. And that's it. And she finally just does it. And there's no like weirdness behind it. And if she doesn't do it right away, I got to go and say, show her what I'm looking for. I can't just like add that you better or else type language. She just shuts down. This dog is so emotional. It's so fascinating to just work with different dogs. But working with different ones allows me to realize how each one learns. And if you're trying to constantly work every single one the same way, you're failing, because everything learns differently. Everything can be trained the same way. Yes. Everything can be trained the same way to have the same method, but you're going to stay in that training and you're just not going to know how to get out of it. And that's the part with me on why I would want someone to just really understand that training is not forever. You stay in the training to get where we want to get into the learning stages, that it's in our memory, that we know what we're doing regardless. That's where you start to have the beauty in life. That's why dog training as a whole today, for the most part, not all part, but for the most all part, is silly. Because you have to keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's not the life that I would ever want to live. That I got to have. That's why folks just can't get away from correction collars. You can't get away from treats. You can't get away from toys, play sessions every 10, 5, 2 minutes. You can't get out of that because they're not actually allowing the dog to learn what you want. You're just training it over and over and over and over and over again. You got to back off and say, hey, I showed you what I want. Let's see how you do it. Let's see how you do it. And it's more likely not going to be the way that you want it to be, because it's based on, you're probably seeing what you want it to be based on what you saw from a video of how someone else's dog looked. You want it to be the way that your dog is capable of doing it. For me, to get my dogs to, for instance, to get them to sit, I don't know why, but my dogs just don't sit. They just, they sit for a little bit in a random spot, because I think he was actually sitting here for a little bit. But when I'm just like, hey, sit, they just look at me like, what's going on with that? But when I say down, they just lay down. That's easy for them. So for me, I rarely tell them to sit. I tell them to lay down. And I've learned that that's just what works, that they work. They've learned what I'm looking for. A stay position, a wait position is what I say. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to do this. And they prove to me that they've learned it on how they do what it is that I'm asking for. But if I'm training them to, you got to sit like this, you got to do it like this, you're just not going to get out of that. I just don't see people just get out of that. Allow the dog to be able to express and be who it is, the way it wants to be. And that's the part that there's some people that are on this. The dogs are dumb. They don't have feelings. They're emotionless. They're just robot like nothingness. And yes, you're going to always view the dogs much differently than me at the end of the day, if that's how you view them. I do not view them that way. I view them as being independent animals that are, at the end of the day, the way that they function and move, I'm trying to learn, because I can see that they're more intelligent than I even am with some things that they do. So I'm trying to even like learn from the dog how to better my life. And that's how powerful I see that they actually are, how smart that they are, in my opinion, the way that I view them, and I'm living with my dogs. I don't view them as being dumb and less than me. In some cases, in a lot of cases in reality, of me just living out here and doing what I'm doing, trying to do more outdoor camping and stuff like that, I'm studying my dogs. I'm like, y'all got it figured out. Y'all know where the places to go that are nice and calm. You know where the places to go to get out of the wind. You know when the rain is coming. You know when the snow is coming. You know when we need to store up because it's about to be dropped for a little bit. They know way more than I do. I study my dogs. I pay attention to them. And that's why I'm learning how to get them to get away from training and don't even give a crap about training in reality, and get them to do what it is that I'm looking for out of them just doing it, because we understand like that's just what we're doing, not because you got to do it like this, you got to do it like this, you got to do it like this. That's just what I see. That's why I think most people are struggling. You're not giving the dog a benefit of the doubt of how smart it actually truly is. And then that's the thing that I can say about even us as humans. We don't give this is a messed up scenario that I see a lot. We don't give our kids the validation, I guess I could say, of them knowing how to be as smart as they are. You want to do everything for them thinking that they're just dumb and they can't do it. That's going to raise up something that is so needy, so demanding, so pushy, so just can't get anything done on its own because you're doing it all for them. That I can give a dog a task of what I want and they could do it on their own. I don't need to be on them. That's why my dogs are not needy. They're not pushy. They're not demanding. They're not none of that, because they're living. They're living, able to do. I'm saying, hey, can you please do this? Let me show them. They're like, okay, we're done. We got it. Let's move on with life. We're not going to stick with this and stay on this anymore. We're done. We figured it out. It's a beautiful place to be. That's why, for me, that's said, I've fired myself as a dog trainer, because I do not give anything. I don't care to train a dog to do a task. I care to show a dog how to live in these lands, what we're looking for, how to be on this planet. And then they just start learning how to do that. And then we don't ever have to address those situations anymore. I don't have to worry. I could turn my back and know that everything is fine because I've shown them what I want. Because even now, Dalmatian's laying there. I don't care if she's here. I don't care where she is. She's over there now. She's decided I'm going to go find me a bone. And they got them a nice, what is that thing? A nice big deer. I don't know. They find the nice, I guess it's a leg part, femur part, whatever. They found a nice bone over there. I'm not nervous at all in reality anymore of where she's going to go, what she's going to do behind my back, because I've shown her, I've trained her. I don't want this. And then once she understood that, she's like, oh, okay, well, can I this? I'm like, yeah, I don't care if you do that. Well, can I this? Yeah, I don't care if you do that. That's the part that I believe that challenges most people, because you see them doing something that you said not to do 100%. Like you want it the way you want it. And when a dog or even your child or your coworker or anything does it like a little bit here, you're like, oh, you're abusing me. You're pushing against me, as opposed to allowing them to learn how to do it the best way for them and not demand that they do it the best way for only you. There's two people in this relationship here. There's two people, regardless if it's work, regardless if it's your animal, regardless if it's your child, there's two people here. It's not just one. And a lot of people like to work these dogs. It's only you, and they have to do everything for you. You're struggling. I'm telling you, you're struggling right now. Thank you. You're struggling right now if you do not care about that animal being an individual being that it is. You're struggling right now. You're always on edge. You're always nervous. You're like, what's going to happen? I don't know. I got to keep this. I got to have this. I got to do this. You got to have these regiments because you're not worried about that other being. That other being also has a lot to say in this. We have 50-50 here. 50% of what we're looking for is what I need. 50% of what we're looking for is what the dog needs. If you looked at life that way with these animals, you would see a significant difference overnight. You would see something just extremely changed overnight. You would see that the dog is like, I needed this, and you're like, okay, let's go do that. You would see that the dog is saying, I don't want to do it like that, but how about I do it like this? You're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. You would see a huge difference, but that's the part that most people are struggling. You believe that, no, it's like 99-1, and some of y'all, it's 100% 1. The dog better shut up when I say shut up. The dog better sit when I say sit. The dog better do it the way I said to do it. You're struggling. You're struggling so much, and that's the unfortunate thing that like dog training pushes the most. And I learned that right away. When you said sit, how many times did you say it? Once. If the dog gets up from that sit, you better correct that dog and tell that dog to get back into that sit, because you didn't say anything else. You said to sit. That is why you can't get out of training, and you're not allowing the dog to learn what it is that you're looking for, because you're putting all this pressure, you're smothering it, not allowing it to just figure it out on its own. You're smothering it. It's like obsessive control over it, as opposed to just saying, hey, this is what I need. Why do I need you to sit and me say it once and have these expectations and these demands that it better or else? Why? What do you need that for? What is the purpose of that? The one thing that I would say is I know a need for that you should spend a lot of time on with working with your dog is put it on a leash and walking it so it's not dragging you everywhere, so that you could just comfortably walk. But when your dog says, hey, I kind of want to smell that, I'm dragging you so that I can smell this tree. When you stop and you say, okay, we're 50-50 here. Now, if I allow that dog to sniff that, will that dog give 50% back to me? Or is it gonna only wanna take 100%? That's the part that I've been challenging with working with all of my dogs. And I've realized my dogs are willing to give me my 50% when I give them theirs. When I speak and listen and hear them, they listen to me. They hear me. We're both learning each other so that we're working with each other. I'm not working against them and they're not working against me. That's the problem when a dog starts to get so pushy that it starts to overrule you and it starts to just demand. That's not got nothing to do with a dog. It's got everything to do with a rebellious dog that is not being heard, that is not being listened to, that is not being able to just have a dialogue with you of saying, hey, I got this. And you're just like, I don't care. I'm going to let you do that. You're over here. That's what's creating these dogs to be just spoiled, just savage. They have no desire to listen to you because you haven't listened to a single thing that it says. And then what it starts doing is it starts just demanding. But then a person like me comes in and says, no, you're not pushing me around like that. Then a dog, like almost most cases, instantly transforms. They instantly start to change because they're like, well, we got to work with each other. You're not just taking from me. And also, I'm not just taking from you. That's the problem with a lot of training today that comes in and just forces everything from the dog. Sit, I said sit. You better stay there. You're not giving anything to the dog. So the dog is going to look good short term. But you have to release that to say, hey, why am I expecting you to walk so pretty on the leash? So that you can go and run. You can go and be free. So you can do something. So 50% of the time is stay with me on this leash, please. 50% of the time is you do what you got to do. We're listening to each other. We're paying attention to each other. That's what we're looking for, or what I was looking for, what I've been looking for. But training left me in training. Everything was just always this regiment of everything. It had to be function. It's like a machine. I'm not a machine. That's a nickname they used to give me when I was back in the days when I was running. The machine showed up. Everybody just lost this race. I appreciated how they spoke about it like that, but that's not what we are. We're not machines. And these animals are not machines. And that's where the simple thing that I see that challenges most people, you're not allowing your dog to learn. You're not even giving it the benefit of doubt that it could learn. You're keeping it in this stance that it can't do nothing and is no good for nothing. And you got to make it do every little thing and it can't just figure it out on its own. Man, the more you let your dog figure out on its own how to do some things in this world, man, that's I'm telling you, you're going to be able to just sit back, relax, and hang out. Sit back and and I live that life. I don't just speak no crazy madness. I got my dog here, like literally 2 minutes before I turn this video on, there's this huge deer and many of them just running. They're all out here. This is one spot that it's free game. They're everywhere. And I'm not nervous one lick a bit what this Dalmatian is doing right now. She's just walking around searching. She's looking for another bone right now. She's just doing what I said is cool. She's figuring that out on her own. What can I do? Because the second that she starts to say do something that what I've said trained her to do before is, if you start to get this like, oh my goodness, just come with me. I'll help you through those feelings, that excitement or that fear. You come to me, I'll help you. But otherwise, do what you do. And she's learned, as long as I'm just hanging out, I can walk, I can freely do what I want. And the cool thing about dogs is, for the most part, and all of mine personally, they always stay close. They may go a little bit further, or I'm just like, hey, but as long as there's nobody around, nothing around, I don't really care at the end of the day. But they're figuring it out on their own. And then when they go far enough, so she's like, wait, where is she? Let me, I can spin this to her. Nope, see, when I stop talking looking for her, she's always looking for me. But, because she knows that, she senses that. She's like, oh, someone's looking for me. They don't go far, they just stay around. And she's learning like what those boundaries are on her own. That's what's gonna make her to be like the most premium dog on the planet at the end of the day. Because she's learning, she's not training. She's learning, what can I do? What can't I do? Where can I go? Where can't, what, everything. She's learning everything. What can I eat? What can I chew on? What can I snack on? What can I climb in? What can I roll in? She's learning it all on her own. I'm not giving her any input other than I told her that one thing that I trained her. You just don't chase nothing. Don't chase nothing. And don't go up to no people and don't go up to no dogs. Unless you looked at me in my eyes and I verified you can go do that. Then she can go do it. But otherwise, everything is off limits. Everything. Just walk around. So she's learning now. She's walked a little bit further over there and she's like, oh, what's going on? And I kind of slightly just messed it up by looking for her, because if I'm looking for her, she knows it. She's like, oh, am I doing something I shouldn't be? And then she's coming back. So she's learning. She's learning everything. We're not training. We're learning. She's learning what she can and cannot do all on her own. No input from me anymore. I told her the bare bones of what I want. Now it's on her. It's a beautiful experience. When if I'm training and I got my collar on her and I'm constantly giving her a tap, tap, tap because she's too far away with my e-collar, if I'm constantly having she's 20 feet away, I got to recall her and give her a treat when she comes back. I'm gonna stay stuck in that forever. I'm gonna always stay stuck in that.